Part 13. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 121. The Legion meeting that had not been held for a long time was suddenly held, and many other angels were a little surprised, but after the surprise, they began to guess the reason for convening the Legion meeting. But it was obvious that apart from the deliberately released news that Binghua was going to become king, no other news had been circulated. Early the next morning, all the guardian angels in the entire Tianjian base gathered in the Legion meeting hall. The spacious hall is divided into left and right sides, with guardian angels standing in columns on the middle avenue. The light projected from the dome above is filtered and refracted by the external starlight to form artificial sunlight, so it softens the meeting. The hall is brightly lit. In front of several columns on the left and right are two women, Angel Ran and Angel Lan. One of them serves as an order conveyor and the other serves as a tactical analyst. They are the largest positions in the Tianjian Legion besides the Legion commander. Naturally, they are standing there. Front of the queue. Okay, now that the sisters are all here, the Legion meeting has officially begun. First, Angel Ran will announce some system reforms of the Heavenly Sword Legion. Angel Ran stood up bravely and read out the information that Binghua had transmitted before the Legion meeting started. Angel warriors and sisters, the strength of the Heavenly Sword Legion is now beginning to take shape, and the total number of angel warriors in the Legion has exceeded 300,000. In order to better command operations and make the Sky Sword Legion more powerful, the Sky Sword Legion will now abolish the order conveyor, tactical analysis officer, and guardian angel systems of levels 1 to 3. Angel Ran paused when he read this, then his throat moved slightly and he continued to read. There was also a slight commotion among the guardian angels below, because this order was so explosive that it could be said to have abolished the entire command system of the Heavenly Sword Legion. Angel Ran's words hadn't ended yet, and she was just heard to continue reading. In order to adapt to the development of the Sky Sword Legion and maintain the stability under the Legion's rule, the Sky Sword Legion will be divided into 4 parts for reorganization. The first part is the Border Guard Angel Legion, whose duty is to guard the borders of the galaxy, defeat all invading enemies and maintain stability under its rule. The second is the Sky Sword Legion, whose responsibilities are to go out to fight, maintain the internal stability of the galaxy, and destroy all invading enemies. The third part, for the Guard Corps, has only one responsibility, and that is to protect the life of the Angel King. The fourth part is the Logistics Scientific Research Force, responsible for production, research, and resource collection tasks. Its main responsibility is to improve the overall combat effectiveness of the Legion. In addition, Binghua, the commander of the Heavenly Sword Legion, will step down from the post of Legion commander and be crowned the King of Heavenly Sword. After Angel Ran read the information sent to her by Binghua, she returned to the queue. Next, it was Binghua's turn to speak. Do you have any opinions? You can speak freely. Binghua sat on the throne and spoke softly, and the voice echoed throughout the hall, but after a few seconds passed, no guardian angel raised any objection. Okay, since no one objects. Then I will be the Heavenly Sword King of the Mere Galaxy from now on, the Queen of all of you, and I will lead you to continue to win until the new era we expect comes. The Queen will win, the guardian angels below shouted together to show their position and always devote their loyalty to Binghua. Okay, let me announce the new appointment. Angel Ran is promoted to the Left Wing Guard, and also serves as the military commander of the Sky Sword Legion, responsible for all military commands. Angel Lan was promoted to the Right Wing Guard and also served as the scientific research officer of the Tianjian Legion, responsible for commanding the scientific research angel troops. In addition, the 6 angels, Angel Mo Yun, Angel Ling, Angel Yun, Angel Hong Yun, Angel Shuang, and Angel Ming, performed outstandingly in the battle on Mill Star. You will serve as my guardian angels and be qualified to be promoted to 2nd-generation warriors. Then Binghua reported the names of dozens of female angels. They were all outstanding and talented warriors in these battles. Binghua gave them the qualification to be promoted to the second generation. Finally, there are the candidates for the new commander of the Heavenly Sword Legion and the commander of the Border Guard Angels. Binghua selected 2 female angels from the original first-level guardian angels to serve in these 2 legions, namely Angel Shalan and Angel Fenghua. The 2 women have one characteristic, that is, they are decisive and cautious. Warrior. Binghua only needs to determine the candidates for these general positions, and the remaining original guard angels who have been split will naturally be properly arranged by Ran, who is the military commander. Most of these former guardian angels of the second-generation warriors were assigned to hold important positions in the newly reorganized Border Guards and Heavenly Sword Legion or to supplement the newly established elite troops. It was already 2 days after the above-mentioned reorganization operation was completed, and during this period, the Tianjian Legion once again ushered in a wave of strength growth. The male-to-female ratio of ordinary angels in the Mir galaxy is seriously imbalanced. Originally, due to the conscription of the Heavenly War King, the number of male angels in the Mir galaxy was much less than that of female angels. But now the female angels have become cherished animals. Most of the female angels join the Heavenly Sword Legion to hone their fighting skills, hoping that more sisters will no longer be oppressed by male angels. Of course, there are also some who have been harmed by male angels and just join the Sky Sword Legion with the idea of pure revenge. However, the Heavenly Sword Legion has strict regulations that prohibit the indiscriminate killing of male angels except during wartime, otherwise these revenge ghosts will definitely kill them indiscriminately. The final reorganization of the Heavenly Sword Legion consisted of 300,000 troops, of which 50,000 were angel recruits who had just completed training. There are 80,000 angels guarding the border, half of whom are new recruits. However, because the borders of the Angel Nebula are small-scale wars that continue continuously, this mixed army can only handle defense. Binghua's idea was to have the Border Guard Angel Legion take the new recruits to deal with the Cyclops and some harassing aerospace-level civilizations to train troops and increase the recruits' combat experience. This will allow the soldiers of the Heavenly Sword Legion to increase their survival rate in the war with the male angels, so that they will not be suddenly in a hurry because the enemy is strong. As for Binghua's own guard army, there are only 600 people, each of whom is a second-generation warrior holding a flaming sword, and nearly 100 of them have mastered the basic dark energy driving technology. But in Binghua's opinion, 600 people were too many. If Binghua used his own escort army as his imaginary enemy, Binghua would be confident that he could defeat them all alone, so Binghua felt it was unnecessary. After the preparation of the Heavenly Sword Legion was completed, Binghua added 3,000 Taya alloy long swords and 50 flaming swords to his arsenal of king's weapons. The quality of these 50 flaming swords is divided into 3 levels, of which 25 are slightly weaker than the flaming swords equipped by the guardian angels. 20 flaming swords of ordinary specifications, and the last 5 were specially modified by Binghua, with the sacred language formulas of Thunder Drive, Star Energy Drive, Dark Energy Drive, Conversion Gravity Drive and Light and Shadow Drive engraved on them respectively. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 122. As long as this simplified algorithm in the sacred language is engraved on the flaming sword, and activated with a certain amount of computing power during battle, part of the power of the driving formula can be exerted. However, it is obvious that most of the angels in the Heavenly Sword Legion have not been able to enter their own dark plane and activate and use their own genetic engines. Only a few second-generation warrior-level angels in the Heavenly Sword Legion can use the gene engine to activate the dark energy on the flaming sword to drive the sacred language, thereby greatly increasing the power of the flaming sword. Binghua once asked Hexi how he activated the gene engine. Hexi's answer was that one day when he was in his 20s, he suddenly activated it independently after one of his works was rejected by his father. This was embarrassing. Later, Binghua studied supergenetic technology and realized that it was difficult for ordinary female angels to activate the genetic engine. Only those who reached the second-generation warrior level could activate the genetic engine. Most of the current second-generation warriors of the Heavenly Sword Legion are newly promoted angels in recent years. Only the first batch of promoted angels have activated their own genetic engines. This is also the reason why the sacred language has not become popular in the Heavenly Sword Legion. After the reorganization of the Border Guards and Tianjian Legion was completed, and the grassroots command network was successfully established, Binghua immediately ordered an expedition, and the target was the Hera star system agreed with Kesha. The 300,000 warriors who went on the expedition included the Heavenly Sword Legion, Binghua's Guarding Angel Legion, and the left and right wing guards of Angel Ran and Angel Lan. More than 300,000 angel warriors on the expedition were evenly divided among the 4 Heavenly Sword battleships. Among them, the commander of the Heavenly Sword Legion commanded 1 ship, and the Ice Flower, which had become the Heavenly Sword King, was commanded by 1 ship. The left and right wing guards were each responsible for commanding 1 ship. The fleet composed of 4 behemoth sky blades crossed the vast starry sky and headed towards the most chaotic area in the Angel Nebula at the moment. The Hera star system is located around the Angel Galaxy, not far from the battle area between the Hui group and the Wei Pai Wan group. It is a star system with 7 planets. Among them is a planet with life in ancient times. At this moment, 12 Skyblade warships are spread out and suspended in the atmosphere, blocking most of the sun in the sky. On the surface with dense vegetation, densely packed humanoid robots are cutting down trees, cutting and polishing stones, and then laying them on the road and compacting them with machines. In the center of these working robots, there is already a magnificent palace made of white polished marble. The appearance of the palace looks complex and beautiful, giving people a sense of grandeur. The white walls made of carved and polished marble exude a sacred temperament. Somewhere in the palace hall, there is a square stone table more than 3 meters wide. 4 of them occupy one direction. On the white throne with red cushions with golden patterns, 3 of them are already sitting under their owners. The 3 women sitting were all wearing exquisite silver battle armor with white velvet shawls on the back, and all of them had a cloak that was pressed underneath them. Only Binghua hasn't come yet. Why is she so slow? Liang Bing, who had long shiny brown hair, sat on the throne, switching his left and right legs irritably. Kesha and Hexi were slowly tasting unknown tea in the white porcelain cups in their hands. Only the restless Liang Bing felt uncomfortable sitting on the throne. Liang Bing, Binghua is the farthest away from us, and she doesn't want you to be proficient in space technology, so it's normal for her to come a little later. Kesha put down the teacup in her hand and opened her mouth to explain for Binghua, but it was obvious that Liang Bing was just looking for something to say. By the way, sister, are we going to take advantage of that scumbag Huaye this time? I can't wait to see that old pervert Huaye get furious. As Liang Bing said this, the image of Huaye getting angry and throwing things wildly appeared in his mind, and he couldn't help but slap the table and burst into laughter. He 11 had a look of helplessness on his face and put down the teacup he was holding. Put away your fantasies, we are not the protagonists this time. He 11, what do you mean? Don't you know? We gathered together this time just to share the pressure from the Wang Alliance army sent abroad. We did not come to fight with Hua yet. Then it's impossible for us to just wander around and go back, right? Kesha spoke first before Hexi could speak. Liang Bing, think about it carefully. With our current strength, can we defeat Hui Group Code? Liang Bing raised his head and thought for a moment, then answered with a slightly embarrassed smile. It seems like he can't be beaten. Hexi shook his head and sighed, I really don't know how you became a queen, and you didn't consider the actual situation when you spoke. Suddenly, Kesha, Liang Bing, and He 11 all received communication requests from their respective left-wing guards. Report to the Queen, the Heavenly Sword Legion has arrived. The 11 heavenly blade battleships suspended above the palace began to move, making room for parking. The next moment, the sea of clouds in the sky rolled violently, and then 4 heavenly blade battleships came out of the sea of clouds with white steam and anchored at a position flush with other sky blades. Binghua was followed by left and right wing guards as well as 6 guarding angels. He left the sky blade and flew toward the unfinished palace below. At this moment, there were 9 angels standing on the platform at the entrance of the palace. 3 of them were led by Kesha, Liang Bing, and He 11. You're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. As soon as Binghua landed, Liang Bing stepped forward to greet Binghua and patted Binghua's shoulder affectionately. He 11 on the side was vomiting in his heart. Didn't you just think that Binghua was here and wanted to hit the table? It's too fast to change your face now. Binghua nodded with a smile on his face and responded at the same time. It took some time to reorganize the Legion. I didn't keep you waiting long, did I? He 11 stepped forward and his cold face melted away a little. We haven't waited too long. We've just arrived. Don't hang around here. Let's go in and chat. When she walked to Kesha, Kesha just said one thing. I'm glad you could come. Binghua and others sat on the 4 thrones respectively, and the guardian angels they brought were guarding outside the door of this room. Now that we are all here, let's get down to business. Kesha spoke first, and everyone else also looked solemn. First of all, I have contacted Tian Yi King Haglas and Tian Li King Huaxiang who sent the Wang Alliance army abroad. They agreed to cooperate with us to defeat the Hui group first. Binghua, Hexi, and Liang Bing didn't interrupt. Kesha was better at grasping the situation than everyone present, so she just had to prick up her ears and listen carefully. But first we have to make a count of the troops we can use. Only in this way can we make a complete response. First of all, I brought 3 heavenly blade legions and a total of 5 heavenly blade warships this time, totaling 600,000 angel warriors. After Kesha finished speaking, she looked at Liang Bingji. The meaning was self-evident. When Liang Bing saw this, a smug smile appeared on her face. I have brought 250,000 Apocalypse Legion soldiers and 3 Skyblade battleships. Don't worry, all the soldiers under my command are elite. Well, I brought 200,000 Skybase Legion soldiers and 3 Skyblades. He 11 is a little embarrassed. She is not good at war matters. She spends most of the day in the laboratory. He 11 herself feels that she is lucky that the Space Base Corps can reach its current scale. Liang Bing clearly had the word disgraceful written on his face, but Kesha didn't have any emotions. In the end, it was Binghua's turn. Because I need to defend the Mir Galaxy, I only brought 300,000 Sky Sword Legion soldiers and 4 Skyblade battleships. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 123. Surprise was almost written on Liang Bing's face. He 11's face also flashed with surprise before returning to normal. Kesha's reaction was average. Binghua's troop strength was different from what she expected. Not big. Okay, Liang Bing. Put away your overly surprised expression. Binghua has conquered the territory of an angel king. Isn't it strange that she can draw 300,000 soldiers under her command? Kesha spoke calmly, while Liang Bing looked frustrated and muttered. Now I'm no longer the 3rd child. Fortunately, I'm not the last. The people present were not ordinary people, and Liang Bing's muttering was undoubtedly speaking directly into their ears. He 11, who had always looked like an outsider with his eyes closed, paused while holding the teacup, and a tic-tac-toe seemed to appear faintly on his forehead. Liang Bing, stop making trouble, we are still talking about business. Kesha stretched out her finger and knocked on the table, and Liang Bing regained her serious expression. Binghua found this scene very interesting. The energetic Liang Bing still liked to tease He 11, who seemed to have a very cold personality. Next, as Kesha said, they began to discuss the issue of command authority of the Legion and how to launch an attack on Huaye, which should be a strategy that could not only inflict pain on the opponent, but also avoid losses to one's own side. The matter of command authority was quickly implemented, with Skyblade King Kesha serving as the commander-in-chief, and Apocalypse King Liang Bing taking charge of commanding the Apocalypse Legion responsible for harassing the guerrillas. Tianji King Hexi is in charge of the logistics of the Angel Legion, while the soldiers of the Tianji Legion are under the command of her left-wing guard He Zui. Finally, it was Binghua's turn, and she was entrusted with the task of breaking the situation during the war. When the war was in a state of anxiety, she was responsible for breaking the balance of the battle as a surprise force. This kind of command system seems very unreasonable, but this kind of unreasonableness is the most suitable for the current situation. Decades ago, the four angel legions were originally one body, but after so many years of development after being split, they added an unknown amount of fresh blood, and at the same time they also became vaguely divided into four factions. Among them, the top leaders of each legion are better, and most of them are acquaintances, mainly angel warriors at the grassroots level. Especially the Heavenly Sword Legion has undergone a major blood change such as reconstruction. These grassroots warriors only recognize the kings of their respective legions, and they all feel that your own king is the strongest. It is very unrealistic for such a warrior to accept the command of another angel queen whom she does not know. It is estimated that there will be a phenomenon of insubordination. Although Binghua, Liang Bing, He 11, and Binghua don't care whose status is high or low, they can't control what the people below are thinking. Nowadays, each angel legion has grown to a scale of hundreds of thousands, and some trends are inevitably mixed among them. A person who pursues fame and profit. These people are relatively peaceful in their respective legions for the time being, but who knows if they will make small moves behind the scenes if they form a coalition. Therefore, in order to avoid this situation, Kesha simply divided the labor between the various legions. The Skyblade Legion was responsible for the main attack, and the Sky Sword Legion was responsible for assisting in breaking the situation. The Apocalypse Legion is responsible for flanking or disrupting the enemy's rear, and finally the Space-Based Legion is responsible for logistics and support. This not only gives full play to the capabilities of each legion, but also prevents the people below from having opinions. From this point, it can be seen that Kesha knows how to gather momentum for her own use. The plan to attack Huaye was formulated by Kesha herself from the beginning, but Kesha alone did not have the strength to complete this plan. So Kesha began to consider all the power she could muster in order to continue her plan successfully. Liang Bing, Binghua, He 11 and their respective legions are the forces that Kesha has taken advantage of, and these forces, combined with her own strength, are enough for the female angel to gain a ticket to this war that will determine the future situation. After settling the command issues, the next step is to designate a battle plan. Now Hui Group and Expatriate Wan Group are having a fierce war in several star systems outside the Angel Galaxy. Because of the fall of the Angel King, the foreign troops did not dare to open the battle line too wide, but Huaye's side was just the opposite. Because Huaye killed 4 of the opponent's Angel Kings in a row in the last battle, which wiped out the high-end combat power advantage of the foreign king's coalition forces. Huaye's side, now at a disadvantage in terms of military strength, took the initiative to widen the battle line arrogantly. But even so, Huaye didn't find any chance to kill the Angel King alone. The coalition forces also learned a lesson. Now the 4 kings are gathered together and fight together, giving Huaye no chance to kill alone. However, Huaye's side was not helpless. Huaye's number 1 general, Chen Xing, asked Sumari, Suri and other generals to hold back the Angel King. Then use the Imperial Guard to partially encroach on the strength of the coalition forces. If this continues, either the Angel King will separate and each will guard a front, otherwise he will become a mere commander sooner or later. At this time, Kesha's request for cooperation came very timely. Several male Angel Kings put it together and directly agreed. From Kesha's dictation, Binghua knew that both the coalition forces and Kesha had dark hearts, and were waiting for Huaya to take the initiative to attack to see who was unlucky enough to be beaten first. However, it is obvious that the threat of the coalition forces has far exceeded the female angel group headed by Kesha in Huaya's heart, so they increased the intensity of the attack. The coalition forces asked Kesha to immediately attack Huaya from the rear in accordance with the cooperation requirements and share the burden with them. Pressure. But Binghua saw that Kesha didn't look anxious at all, so she probably thought in her heart that she wanted both parties to spend their time first. The Hera star system we are in now is about 2 days of cruising time from the war zone based on Skyblade sailing speed. And we can't attack blindly, otherwise Huaya will turn his gun and aim at us, then we will become very passive. Hearing Kesha's remarks, Binghua and others nodded in agreement. So my idea is to wait for a while. When Huaya and the legions under the expatriate king are fighting together, we will attack Huaya's rear. Binghua agreed with Kesha's idea. There were many powerful opponents in the Tiangong group. Binghua had the confidence to hold down one, but he did not have the confidence to face the siege of many at the same time. I agree. If we attack Huaya's rear at a critical moment of the war, he has only 2 choices. The first is to withdraw his troops to get rid of the entanglement of the coalition forces and concentrate on dealing with us. But it is obvious that the senior leaders of the coalition forces will never let go of such a fighter opportunity. He will bite Huaya's troops hard and not let go. Another option is to end the entanglement with the coalition forces as soon as possible and turn to defend against our attack. However, as long as we grasp this period of time well, we can retreat unscathed. Kesha was very satisfied with the 2 possible situations Binghua mentioned, but Hexi intervened at this time. If the expatriate Wang Lianjun chooses to sit on the sidelines, wouldn't our situation be very dangerous? Kesha and Binghua fell into deep thought together. This possibility has a high probability of happening. The conflict between male and female angels has become increasingly irreconcilable. Although the coalition forces have agreed to cooperate with the female angel now, they will definitely turn against Huaya after defeating the enemy. After all, the trigger of the civil war in Angel Nebula was the generation of God-making technology released by the female angel. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 124. In the end, after discussions between the 4 female angel kings, Kesha, Binghua, Hexi, and Liangbing, they decided to adopt the drag word decision. If the coalition forces asked to launch an attack together, the female angel would hold off until Dan Huaya and them were beaten to a bloody head. Although this is a bit rogue, it is also the best way now. After all, the female angel is not strong enough. If you enter the field rashly early, you will be crushed to pieces if you are targeted. After the meeting, the 2 sisters Kesha and Liangbing had not seen each other for a long time to communicate with each other, and the remaining Hexi and Binghua became a couple again after a long absence. Let's go, let me take you to meet someone close to me. Last time, because of time constraints and she was not at the base, I didn't introduce you to her. Today I have the opportunity. He 11's frosty face melted, and a faint smile appeared. Binghua rarely saw this look on He 11's face. Sister Hexi, I became curious after hearing what you said. I have never seen you show such an attitude to others. Binghua and Hexi walked side by side and spoke teasingly with a smile, only to receive a blank look from Hexi. Before the 2 of them reached the entrance of the palace, they heard a high-pitched female voice full of heroic spirit. You are the left guard of the King of Heavenly Sword, right? It just so happens that we have nothing to do now, how about we compete? If I beat you, I will challenge your King of Heavenly Sword. After this voice fell, Angel Ran's calm and steady words sounded immediately. There should be no private fights between companions. As the left-wing guard of King Tianji, you should understand this rule, right? That high-spirited female voice full of heroic spirit did not stop there. Hey, you're being too serious, and this is not a private fight, it's just a discussion. What? You don't even dare to agree to a request for discussion between your companions. The slight smile on Hexie's face couldn't be held back anymore, and turned into a helpless smile that Binghua was very familiar with. Binghua understood this. Sister Hexie, is this the angel you want to introduce to me? Hexie sighed softly, no, that's why I said you must be able to talk to each other very well. Binghua didn't care about this, and said with a bit of excitement, let's go and have a look. Maybe we can see a good duel. At this moment, in the square outside the small palace where the four kings were holding a meeting, a group of angels were standing there, and two angels were standing opposite each other in the middle of them. One of them was wearing angel light armor, with silver hair hanging down behind his head and tied into a ponytail. There were several silver hair hanging down in front of his forehead, adding a touch of coldness to his originally heroic and beautiful face. Under her fair and smooth forehead was a pair of blue eyes as deep as the starry sky like He-11's. At this moment, the corner of her mouth was slightly raised with a look of confidence on her face. Opposite her was Angel Ran, who had blonde hair, shawl and blue eyes, and looked as usual. They were more than 10 meters apart at the moment, and the atmosphere was very tense. And in the outer circle more than 20 meters away, there were more than 10 female angels watching the show. These were the left and right wing guards of each legion, as well as the guard angels. Among them, Angel Lan was looking at Angel Ran with a worried look on his face. Angel Ran stared at the silver-haired angel opposite, calmed down the anger rising in his heart, regained his composure and spoke. I agree to your request. I will make you understand that you are not qualified to challenge the queen. The silver-haired female angel showed a smile as if her plan had succeeded. She couldn't resist such a simple provoking method. Unfortunately, she also thought of several provoking methods, but none of them were used. When you say this, I become more interested in your queen. My name is Hizui, and I am the left-wing guard under King Tianji. After achieving his goal, Hizui no longer pretended to be disdainful of the Heavenly Sword King, but instead formally announced his name and affiliation. My name is Angel Ran, and I am the left-wing guard under the command of King Tianji. Angel Ran also hugged his name very formally. Although this was a sparring match initiated by Hizui, Angel Ran also had the idea of showing off his strength. Seeing that the left-wing guards of the two angel kings were really about to start fighting, the surrounding female angels quickly gave up hundreds of meters of space, but this was enough. After all, it was just a sparring match, not a life-or-death battle. On the top of the palace on one side of the square, Binghua and Hexie were standing on top, looking at the situation below. Binghua, aren't you worried about your left guard being injured? Let me remind you that Hizui is responsible for all the combat missions of the Tianji Legion. Her strength is outstanding among the second-generation warriors, and she is not an ordinary angel. Deal with it? Binghua didn't care. If there was a situation, she was confident that she could stop it. As she spoke, Binghua waved her hand and a wave of waves enveloped the surrounding 3-meter space. I didn't expect that your light and shadow driver was so good at it, it directly eliminated any images in this area. It's just a small trick that can't be put on the table. It can also deceive the rookies on the battlefield. Binghua said modestly, but the trace of pride on his face made He-11 feel inexplicably funny. Speaking of the basic knowledge of this thing, she should have been taught to her by herself. While the two were talking, Hizui and Angel Ran also made some moves in the square below. Hizui reached out and carried out a silver broad-blade longsword with a prismatic crystal on the hilt. The sword was white and not as thick as the flaming sword, but it was beyond the range of a light sword. Angel Ran's weapon is very ordinary, it is the flaming sword that comes standard with the guardian angel. Carrying out the weapons meant that the sparring session had officially begun. Due to the venue, both sides did not spread their angel wings and chose to fight on the ground. He Chui was the first to strike. As soon as his toes touched the ground, he flew forward. He raised the silver sword in his hand and made a charged thrust. Angel Ran stood on the spot, predicting the angle of He Chui's stabbing in advance, and then raised one side of his body like a flaming sword. But it was obvious that He Chui's thrusts were just a test and he did not use all his strength. The thrusting sword peaks retracted and then slashed downwards. The piercing sharp sound made the surrounding air shake, and there seemed to be a faint ripple flashing through. Not bad. He Zui, who was pressing down with the silver sword in his hand, opened his mouth to praise, then deflected the sword peak and directed the colliding flaming sword to one side, then raised his leg and kicked it sharply. Angel Ran had no time to defend himself and was kicked back a few steps by He Chui. As soon as he raised his head, he saw a silver sword thrust towards him. The flaming sword raised up and intercepted the silver sword in He Zui's hand, and Angel Ran slashed forward with the flaming sword. Then there was a dense ping 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 sound, accompanied by sparks flashing in the air. He Zui and Angel Ran constantly exchanged positions and moved around. The guarding angels watching the battle could only see two after images, and couldn't see clearly the traces of the weapons wielded by the two. Binghua and He 11, who were watching the battle from above, were different. One was good at close combat, and the other was a third-generation warrior. Their eyes could clearly capture the battle trajectory of He Zui and Angel Ran below. Binghua, your left guard is going to lose, don't you have anything to say? Hearing He 11's words, Binghua's mouth twitched slightly, but he couldn't refute and could only speak hard. Ran just has too little combat experience, otherwise he wouldn't lose. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 125. As soon as Binghua finished speaking, the battle between He Zui and Angel Ran below changed. He Chui's swordsmanship and fighting style are sharp and changeable. In comparison, although Angel Ran's swordsmanship is solid, the connection is a bit stiff and rigid. As the two bodies flashed and the sword blades in their hands continued to collide, He Zui quickly became familiar with Angel Ran's swordsmanship style, and finally sold a flaw to lure Angel Ran into taking the bait. As expected, Ran seized this opportunity very keenly, holding the flaming sword tightly with both hands, and struck with a horizontal blow. However, the well-prepared He Chui turned around to avoid it. The next moment, the silver sword in He Chui's hand was moved forward and touched the left side of Angel Ran's neck. Angel Ran looked at the silver sword edge against his neck and the slightly raised corners of He Zui's mouth. He was unwilling to hold the hilt of the sword and moved his hand. Finally, he gave up and continued the movement and said in a low tone, "I lost." Seeing this, He Zui put away his long sword and walked forward with a smile. He stretched out his white hand and patted the angel's burning shoulder armor, which was standing there a little disappointed. "It's not bad. I can afford to lose, so it suits my taste." Seeing that the duel between the two people stopped, Binghua cancelled the blocking effect of light and shadow with a thought, then spread his wings and flew down from the palace roof, followed closely by Hexi. Angel Ran's expression was still a little down, and he felt that he had lost the face of the Heavenly Sword Legion, but suddenly an unusually familiar voice came. "Ran, there's nothing to be upset about. Just win it back next time." Ran immediately raised her head and saw Binghua falling from the sky beside her, and He 11, who had the same hair color as He Zui. When the guardian angels present saw the two fallen angel kings, they quickly put their right hands on their chests and bowed their heads to show respect. "King Tianji! King Tianji on!" Seeing this, He 11 waved his hand to indicate that there was no need to be polite, and then spoke. "It's all gone." The guarding angels nodded after hearing this and then dispersed and left. Several guarding angels brought by Binghua also left at the sign of Binghua's eyes, including Angel Ran, who was a little disappointed at the side. In the end, only he 11, Hizui and the 3 Binghua girls were left in the square. Come. Binghua, let me introduce you. This is my sister Heikawi. I wanted to introduce you two last time, but Heikawi was not there at the time, so I missed it unfortunately. After introducing his sister Hichui to Binghua, he 11 turned to introduce Binghua, but was interrupted by Hichui. Her blue eyes were burning with boiling fighting spirit and she said, I have long heard of your name, Heavenly Sword King Binghua, the legendary female angel who defeated several generals under the Angel King. I have always wanted to challenge you, how about we compete now? Binghua looked at Hizui with a bit of amusement, shaking his head slightly as he looked like a maniac with a fighting attitude. We have different levels of super warriors. There is no comparison. Why don't we compare on the next battlefield? What do you think? Hizui lowered her head and thought for a while. After her mind cooled down, she also remembered that the 4 angel kings of the female angels are all 3rd generation super warriors. She felt like she was looking for abuse by fighting against the Heavenly Sword King, so Hizui immediately borrowed Popo's help. Get off the donkey. Okay, this is what you said. Then I will compete on the battlefield. If I win, I will challenge you. Okay, we sisters haven't seen each other for a long time. Stop discussing things on the battlefield and go drink tea and chat together. He 11 interrupted, but Binghua on the side complained. Sister Hexi, you have the nerve to say this. When I was at Marrow Academy, you slashed at me with a sword. Hey. That's an old thing from when, and you're still digging it out. Seeing the quarrel between He 11 and Binghua, Hizui found it very strange. She knew her sister's character very well. In Hizui's impression, He 11 belongs to the type who has a cold-hearted personality and rarely takes the initiative to communicate with strangers. But people who are familiar with Hexi know that Hexi is just a cold character. In addition, she spends most of her time thinking, so she seems difficult to get close to. But this does not mean that she is withdrawn. While the female angels were leisurely building their own base and communicating with each other, a communication request came from the coalition forces. Naturally, the female angels' move to enter the Hera star system could not be concealed from Huaye's detection system. After Binghua led the Heavenly Sword Legion to join Kesha, Huaye group quickly stopped the tactics of cannibalizing the coalition forces and instead gathered its troops. Turtle got defensive. The coalition forces also took the opportunity to close the front and began to lick their wounds. Sargeras and the other 4 angel kings began to plan their future tactics again, the most important of which was the coordinated combat with the female angels. The meaning of the coalition forces is very simple. King Sargeras of Tianyi asked the female angels to attack Huaye's Tiangong group in tandem with their coalition forces. Kesha agreed readily. The 2 parties directly agreed on a time, which is tomorrow. Attack together. Kesha had already discussed tactics with Binghua and others, and entered the scene when Huaye and the coalition forces were beaten to a bloody head. So the next day Kesha didn't even give the order to gather and prepare for battle, and spent the day peacefully. However, it was obvious that there was no movement at all from the Wang Alliance's side, and the day passed in peace among the 3 parties. Kesha and Sargeras both scolded each other for being evil in their hearts. Binghua was glad that Kesha, the current commander-in-chief of the female angels, did not have the nerve to send troops out of anger, otherwise Huaye would definitely pin her to the ground and hammer her. However, Kesha was the one who made the decision on these matters. Binghua, Hexi, and Liang Bing were the 3 girls who worked as the shopkeepers, so they were so leisurely that they sat in the newly built palace garden every day, chatting and drinking tea. Of course, instead of doing nothing, Binghua, Hexi, and Liang Bing exchanged some high-end knowledge specializing in their respective fields. For example, Hexi is good at large-scale engineering technology and has been conducting in-depth research in this area. For example, the supergenetic engineering of large-scale stellar applications and the first-generation divine bodies of female angels has never failed. Because there are existing data on the first-generation divine-making projects, the progress is pretty good. Moreover, Hexi has been cracking the defense system of Tiancheng in preparation for one day attacking Tiancheng. Liangbing is obsessed with space technology, and she can play all kinds of tricks with micro-wormholes in her hands. Compared with Hexi and Liangbing, Binghua is a bit behind the times. The Thunder Drive, Light and Shadow Drive, Star Energy Drive and other research technologies are relatively common technologies. Binghua's philosophy is different from that of Hexi and Liangbing. She believes that instead of spending a lot of energy on researching large-scale engineering technologies, it is better to focus on the technologies in front of her that can improve her own strength. Of course, the exchanges between Binghua, Hexi, and Liangbing were not fruitless. At least she was more proficient and flexible in the application of micro-wormhole transportation. For example, the micro-wormholes opened are no longer limited to the surrounding area, but can also be in some areas such as in front of the body or behind the body. Of course, it is limited to the area of 2 or 3 meters around. At the same time, in order to cooperate with this more flexible micro-wormhole application technology, Binghua added the 2000 Te alloy war spears and matching shields in the Heavenly Sword Legion's arsenal to his own arsenal. If there is any damage during the battle, Binghua can also be taken out from the weapons depot at any time to replenish the weapons of his soldiers. Because I am not a full-time author, and I often work overtime until very late from time to time, so the updates are usually once a day, and I will update twice when I have time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 126. Kesha, Tianyi King Sargeras and Tianli King Huaxiang, who were in charge of the Wang alliance, kept arguing with each other about when to attack the Hui group. As a result, a week has passed, and no one from Kesha or the coalition can convince anyone else, because both parties only made a verbal agreement that can be reneged on at any time, and it is not binding at all. The fact that the female angels and the coalition forces stood still may have allowed the Huaye group to see something was wrong, so on the 15th day after Binghua arrived in the Hera star system, the Huaye group moved. Huaye chose the male angel side as the target of attack, and divided the attack into 4 groups, each of which was led by a general under Huaye. There are also 800,000 angel warriors who continue to defend Huaye's Tiangong, seemingly to prevent a sudden attack by the female angels headed by Kesha. The purpose of Hui group's use of this tactic is self-evident, which is to allow the coalition forces to divide their forces and defeat them one by one. If the coalition forces do not choose to divide their forces, then under the leadership of Huaye's high-end combat power, victory will only be a matter of time. But at the same time, the 4 angel kings on the coalition side also have a concern, that is, if they disperse to resist the menacing rising sun, Sumari and other generals are afraid that they will be left alone by Huaye during the battle like the previous angel kings such as King Tianshang. Interception. As a result, the battle situation became strange. It was clear that the coalition forces had a huge advantage, but under the attack of Hui group, they retreated step by step and suffered heavy losses. Seeing this situation, Keisha was worried about the IQ of the coalition forces. The great advantage situation was turned into such a mess. No wonder the 9 Kings Alliance army became the current 4 Kings Alliance army. In one of the spacious rooms in the magnificent temporarily built marble palace on the planet Hera, the 4 angel kings Binghua, Kesha, Hexi, and Liangbing were gathering together to discuss when to send troops. Between the 4 girls is a huge star map projection. In the 4 star systems connected to each other in the middle, the miniature projections of the dense battleship groups representing Huaya and the coalition forces are colliding together. Moreover, on the surface, the coalition forces, which seemed to have the upper hand in terms of strength, were actually overwhelmed by the Hui group, which had fewer troops than them. After observing the battle and reviewing the information collected by Kesha, Binghua crooked his fingers and gently touched his chin and opened his mouth. Judging from the information currently known, the senior leaders of the coalition forces were probably frightened by Huaya and were unable to see the situation clearly. Even if Huaya wanted to intercept and kill one of them, it would still take a certain amount of time, and if possible, he could use a plan to counterattack and kill Huaya. In Binghua's view, dividing the coalition forces to resist was the right choice, because it could restore the disadvantage of the frontal battlefield. And as long as the disadvantage on the battlefield is restored, if Huaya's side does not have hidden strength. So if the Hui group wants to break the situation, the only way to go is for Huaya, who has the ability to kill the Angel King alone, to end the game personally. Otherwise, the current situation will be reversed, and the Hui group and the coalition forces will switch sides and become cannibalized. That side. Binghua, you think too highly of them. The only ones who can take charge of the coalition now are Sargeras and Huasiang. The remaining two have been frightened by Huaya and dare not leave the center of the coalition. Although they were discussing tactical issues, the women in the room were all familiar with each other, so the atmosphere was not serious. Liang Bing was sitting on a white stone handrail more than 1 meter high, chewing a bright red fruit, with her legs dangling casually underneath. Sister, the coalition forces and Huaya are currently fighting fiercely. Isn't it a good time for us to go to war? Hexi folded his arms and leaned on a round white support pillar behind him and spoke lightly. Now we have a 70% chance of being targeted by Hui group when we go to war. Binghua continued to add what he 11 had said. Sister Hexi is right, Liang Bing, I understand your eagerness to attack the male angel. But first of all, we cannot attack at will without certainty, otherwise the lives of the sisters will be sacrificed in vain. Ah! I know. Liang Bing threw the red fruit in his hand into the wormhole emerging in the air, and scratched the hair on his temples with his fingers. Kesha looked at the several kings of female angels from various legions in the room and sighed secretly. Liang Bing's personality is too lively to sit still. He gets very excited when he hears that there is a war, and he can't wait to lead his troops to attack immediately. He 11 is obsessed with research every day. He probably hasn't stopped thinking about calculations now, and he has little interest in the battle situation. As for Binghua, because the meeting had been held for several hours and there was no result, Binghua sat on the cushioned seat on the left side of the star map, leaning his whole weight on the leaning chair and looking extremely lazy. Kesha felt that she needed to improve the discipline during the meeting, but the top priority was how to solve the problems between Hui group and the coalition forces. Oh, after thinking about it, don't you have any constructive opinions? Binghua, who was lazily leaning on the seat, raised his eyes and said. Maybe we should let Huaya relax his vigilance against us. Kesha's eyes lit up thoughtfully after hearing this, and after a few minutes, she slowly exhaled. I figured out a way. The women who were so bored in the room to kill time with their fingers simultaneously looked up in Kesha's direction, waiting for her next words. Since Huaya didn't devote all his troops because he was worried about us disrupting the situation, let's just let him keep his heart in his stomach. The next day, the army of more than 1 million female angels stationed in the Hera star system, together with a dozen sky blades, suddenly evacuated the Hera star system. This move of the female angel made Chen Xing, who was under Huaye's command, frown. He wondered what the female angel was up to. If the female angel hadn't suddenly settled in the Hera star system behind the Hui group's base, the dust star would have divided the coalition forces and began the final battle of annihilation. But Chen Xing finally came up with a strategy that took care of both sides, but the female angel suddenly withdrew from the Hera star system, and the huge celestial fleet group also disappeared. Huaya arrived at the main hall of Tiangong, surrounded by several beautiful female angels. At this moment, there were only a few people in the main hall. Chen, why are you looking so sad? Didn't your plan go smoothly? As he spoke, Huaya opened his mouth and ate the fruit handed to him by a female angel wearing a white gauze dress. At the same time, he held his slender waist and let out an unknown chuckle. Wang, I'm just wondering what Kesha is thinking. Facing Chenexing's words, Huaya said casually while teasing the red-faced female angel next to him, who looked like she was trying to resist but still wanted to welcome him. You don't care what that stinky bitch is thinking. Didn't you leave 800,000 Legion soldiers to deal with the group of beauties under her command? Are you still afraid that she will escape? Chen Xing responded with silence. He was embarrassed to say some words too directly, otherwise Huaye's character would definitely interfere with his plan, so Chen Xing would remain silent in less important areas. As for the problem of He Chui, he is not a virtual actor, but a character provided by a book friend. However, the setting is too fantasy, so I changed it a bit. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 127. Just when Chen Xing was thinking hard about what the female angel was planning, reports from Rising Sun, Sumari and other frontline generals were passed on. Huaya, who was playing with the female angel sitting on his lap on the throne, saw from the corner of his eye that Chen Xing's face suddenly turned serious, so he pushed the female angel away from his lap and stood up and asked, "What happened?" Chen Xing turned around and bowed to Huaya, then raised his head and said, "King, Suri and others sent news that Tianyi King Haglas and others appeared on the battlefield and temporarily resisted our offensive. Now the rebels have switched from defense to attack and are attacking our four-legged army. Now what?" Huaya frowned and asked. The female angel on the side wanted to come up to her, but what she received was a scolding from Huaya, who was so frightened that she immediately retreated. Only Huaya, Chen Xing and a few male angel guards standing upright were left in the main hall, which looked very empty. After Chen Xing lowered his head and thought for a moment, he raised his head and said, "King, the female angel is missing now. According to the Tiangong's detection, no trace of large fleets has been found in dozens of surrounding star systems. This is a great opportunity for us to defeat the coalition forces." Chen Xing looked at Huaya, who was standing on the high platform in deep thought. He knew very well that the female angel must be up to some conspiracy, but Chen Xing planned to cut the knot quickly and not play hide and seek with the female angel. Huaya walked back and forth, stroking the stubble on his chin with his fingers, his wolf-like eyes flashing from time to time. "Okay, I'll listen to you again." As Huaya finished speaking, Chen Xing, who had been waiting for a long time below, showed a faint smile, obviously in a good mood. On the third day after the female angel evacuated the Hera star system, she was in one of the 4 star systems attacked by the Hui group. In this unknown star system with 5 planets, nearly 1 million male angels are traveling among several planets to fight. Teams of 4 male angels are scattered across the vast universe, fighting each other over a range of hundreds of kilometers. They are actively attacking, dividing, and encircling each other. Hurry up and encircle them, don't let them go, others are blocking his companions. Squad 15863 listens to the order. Your position in direction 853 has been breached by the enemy combat team. Please go to support immediately. Team 15863 has received it and is on its way to the target location. The male angel wearing a coxcomb helmet that only exposed his mouth and eyes replied in the communication, and then called on his companions who had just finished dealing with an enemy team to flap their wings and fly towards the target location. This situation is constantly happening in this vast universe. With the 5 planets in the star system as a chessboard, each angel combat team is a chess piece. In the command room of the celestial battleship on the coalition side, 30 or 40 male angels were sitting in front of a projection, and all kinds of data flashed in the projection. A blonde male angel with a thick back was standing in front of a huge star map projection in the command hall, and the countless green dots representing his own side in the projection were disappearing every moment. At the edge of the area filled with green dots, a big hole suddenly opened at this moment, and then centered on the big hole, the surrounding green dots were quickly disappearing. Seeing this situation, the blonde man with a big back hair immediately turned around and ordered. There are gaps in the 335th, 123rd, and 529th defense lines. Immediately order the idle combat teams to go to support and don't let the enemy widen the gaps. It's the general. I will immediately deploy a combat team for support. This male angel general is the commander-in-chief responsible for commanding the battlefield of the entire star system. He is like a chess player in charge of chess pieces. The countless combat teams scattered throughout the star system are the chess pieces he controls, and the key to the outcome of a battle often lies in every move he makes. And in one part of the chessboard, two existences that can destroy the rules of the entire chessboard are fighting. The crosshead war gun with a black spine and silver blade was like a jet black light glowing with silver, cutting through the space and punching a big hole in the air. The power carried by the gun tip did not dissipate because the owner of the war gun stopped moving. On the contrary, it continued to move forward in the air, poking out a trumpet-shaped ravine that was narrow in front and wide in back on the ground a few meters away. It's so powerful. If it were stabbed in the body, there would probably be a big hole. Tianyun Wang Hualian said, although it was a word of joy, but from the face with a light smile on his face, it was as if he was mocking Xinyo opposite him. Without saying a word, Xinyo rushed out with a flap of his wings behind his back. He waved the gun in his hand that was covered in dark energy, and a dark orange burning light like a flame appeared in the air, exuding extremely terrifying heat. Hualian firmly remembered what the other party said when he separated from Tianlai King Huaxiang. Delay the opponent's high-end combat power as much as possible, and remember to pay attention to the surrounding situation at all times to prevent being attacked by Huaye's coward. Hualian believed King Tianli's words as truth. During the battle with Xingyo, he hid whenever he could. If he couldn't, he would block with his sword. At the same time, he carried more than one flame-level weapon and sword. Hualian flew back to avoid Xingyo's sweeping shot. The next moment, Hualian suddenly raised the Wang sword in his hand and straightened it in front of him. The head appeared at just the right moment to poke him in the heart. However, Hualian had already focused most of his attention on Xingyo, and this swift thrust was pushed aside by the Wang sword in Hualian's hand. Hualian did not take this opportunity to step forward and attack, and carried Goji through to the end. He stepped back and at the same time, dark energy surged out of Wang Jian and slashed forward. The tail of Xingyo's war gun swung forward, and the next moment Hualian's crude sword energy of dark energy was knocked into energy fragments and scattered in the air. Before the scattered dark energy debris was completely dispersed, Xingyo rushed over, his battle gun slightly lowered, and he maintained a posture that could launch a swift attack at any time. His whole body seemed to be equipped with a jet engine and was about to fly back in advance. Hualian watched the scene and his flying figure immediately changed direction and continued flying upside down, just in time to avoid Xingyo, who was charging with a gun. When Xingyo changed direction and sprinted again, Hualian changed direction again. Looking down from the sky, you could see two angels dragging long after images below, constantly changing direction, chasing each other one after another. Xingyo is the only general under Huaye who uses long weapons. What he is most proud of is his instant sprint speed. He can often penetrate the enemy's body with his battle spear before the enemy can escape. But now this situation is something Xingyo has never encountered before. Hualian is like a prophet who can avoid the thrust that he is proud of at the end every time, and he looks very relaxed and comfortable. This made Xingyo grit his teeth and forcefully suppress the anger that had arisen before, because even if he opened his mouth, he couldn't speak to the other person, so he could only hold his breath and hope to kill the uncle with a gun. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 128. Hualien saw that Xingyo had been holding a gun like a mad dog and constantly launching short-distance high-speed sprints. He was so happy that he wanted to laugh a few times, but on the outside he was still adding fuel to the fire. If you hurry up, you can make a hole in me, what? As General Huaye, you can't do it after a few strokes? Can't move anymore. The words were filled with an inexplicable provocation, which made Xingyo, whose life had always been smooth sailing, unable to stop the anger from pouring into his mind. Gradually, before, Xingyo occasionally attacked Hualien at close range in search of a fighter, but now, with his eyes red, he kept sprinting with his gun in hand, as if he would not give up until he hit the target. The first reason why Hualien was able to dodge Xingyo's attack so easily was because Xingyo's assault trajectory with a gun was too simple and direct. The second point is that Hualien obtained Xingyo's battle analysis data from Huaji, the Tianzu king who fought with Xingyo last time, which even included some of Xingyo's fighting habits and so on. The space at the edge of the fierce battlefield suddenly blurred, and a giant celestial warship appeared from the twisted space, bringing with it a large number of angel legions and warships. This scene was instantly detected by the coalition forces in the star system, and the picture was projected into the coalition command room in less than 2 seconds. Huaye has appeared. Tell the king the news quickly, and at the same time contact King Tianyi, King Tianzu, and King Tianli in other battlefields immediately, and tell them to be ready for support. The general under King Tianyun, who was responsible for commanding the overall situation, looked excited. Instead of maintaining the calm look before, he was like a hunter who saw his prey about to fall into a trap. Huaye flew out of the Tiangong flagship in his blue Gothic battle armor covered with special patterns, came into the space, raised his nose, took a deep breath, opened his eyes, raised his head, and spoke excitedly. My king, I can already smell the smell of victory, and it is waving to me. Although the angel army commanders around Huaye wanted to know how their king breathed and smelled in the universe, they wisely did not choose to interrupt Huaye's pretentious behavior. After a few seconds, Huaye opened his eyes and stared at the star system in front of him with the corner of his mouth slightly raised. In the dark planetary space background, firelight flashed from time to time, like fireworks blooming in the dark night sky. King, the rebel king is fighting General Xingyo on the second planet ahead. One wore silver chain mail. The blonde male angel with ferocious beast-style shoulder armor on his shoulders flapped his wings and stepped forward to report. Then what are you waiting for? Come on. Huaye pointed forward with his finger. The smile on his face was as cynical as that of a nobleman out for fun. He seemed not to pay attention to the dangerous battlefield ahead. Come on, as soon as you enter the star, disperse and rush in to find the opponent's command ship. The male angel legion commander holding the cross ship nodded, and after saying the above words, he dived down, his wings fanned into a stream of light and went away, followed by a dense crowd of male angels holding war spears, and gradually 4 of them became one. The team dispersed. Huaye looked at the soldiers under his command who kept rushing into the battlefield of the star system, hands on hips, and then said to himself, "Okay, now it's time for me to take action. Chen Xing, I leave the fleet command to you. I have only one request. When I come back, I want to see them all surrender to me." "Don't worry, King, you will see what you want to see." Hearing Chen Xing's answer, Huaye nodded with satisfaction, then quickly flapped his wings behind his back, and his whole body instantly turned into a white meteor and disappeared from the sight of the surrounding angel warriors. Boom! A huge explosion occurred, and a mountain over 100 meters high was covered with cracks, and then collapsed amidst the splash of earth and rocks. Among the rolling sand and stones, a figure jumped out with white wings, floating in the air, and it was Hualien, the heavenly meteor king. Well, Huaya has arrived and is approaching here. He is expected to arrive in 20 seconds. Okay, I understand. Let's act according to the original plan. Hualien hung up the call, and a small bag suddenly bulged out of the rolling sand in front of him. It exploded violently the next moment, and a black gun with a silver blade came straight towards Hualien's face. There was no time to speed up and dodge. Hualien's rich combat experience made him raise his sword hand and tilt the sword body slightly to the outside. Stab. There was a metallic friction sound that could pierce a person's eardrum. The pointed spear hit the tilted sword and was slid away, shifting away from the original target angle. The air was cut in half by the sharp spear tip, and Hualien was knocked back dozens of meters. Hualien put down his sword and climbed up in an instant. There was only a flash of light under his feet, leaving only the air currents in the air that separated to both sides like waves. You'll take advantage of every crack, are you a fly? Hualien turned around and flew backwards to distance herself, while speaking at the same time. Xinyo's eyebrows were knitted together, his whole face extremely ugly, but he didn't stab him again. King Huaya has arrived at the battlefield now. You won't be able to be rampant for long. You will die when the king arrives. Haha, if you can, just ask that coward to come and kill me. I'll be waiting for you on this planet to kill me. Whoever runs away will be my grandson. Hualien flew backwards towards the target location while continuing to stimulate Xingyo, then turned around and sent messages frantically on the communication channel. How long do you want? Hurry up to me. Huaya is already here. I won't be able to hold on for long once he arrives. If you are late, all you will see is my body. The answer to Hualien's words was a female voice that was unhurried and unhurried. Don't worry, as long as you can hold on for 20 seconds, we will arrive. By then, Huaya will die. I hope it is as you said, otherwise you will have to bear the wrath of our coalition forces. After Hualien finished speaking, he hung up the communication again and flew to the other side of the planet at full speed. He was surrounded by the earth and various scenery that were constantly retreating rapidly. Not far behind him was Xinyo, who was chasing after him. Didn't you say you weren't afraid? Why were you running? Xinyo, who had been stimulated by Hualien's words from behind, finally found a chance and shouted loudly. A few seconds passed between the words, and the two of them had already crossed a distance of hundreds of kilometers, leaving behind slowly dissipating sonic boom clouds in the air. Suddenly there was a violent roar in the sky, and a meteorite with a burning flame and a long tail crashed towards Hualien's position at high speed. Hualien naturally saw the scene and quickly changed his body shape in the air to avoid the flaming meteorite falling from the sky. But the meteorite seemed to be equipped with automatic navigation, allowing Hualien to change its position, and then it followed Hualien to change position. Then there was only a burst of laughter coming from the flaming meteorite. Why are you hiding? Haven't you always wanted my life? Now that I have sent it to you, you don't dare to accept it. It turned out that what fell was not a meteorite at all, but Huaya, who entered the atmosphere at an extremely fast speed, and the friction between his body and the atmosphere caused blazing flames. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 129. The flames surrounding the meteorite exploded, revealing Huaya and the silver shining Wang sword in his hand. Hualien, who was flying at high speed, was suddenly knocked out of the air by Huaya, turning into a meteorite and smashing a huge crater into the ground. Huaya, on the other hand, stayed in the air, with white steam rising from his body, and his body was floating there in a blur. Seeing this, Xingyo quickly stepped forward, saluted respectfully, and spoke. King, my subordinates are doing things poorly. They have not been able to kill the rebel king for so long. Huaye stretched out his hand to signal Xingyo not to say anything, and said in a very relaxed tone. Forget it, it's normal that you can't defeat these old guys by yourself. That old guy just avoided that sword. It's a pity. Huaye smacked his lips, and there was no so-called pity on his face. During the moment when Huaye and Xingyo were talking, the billowing dust rising from below suddenly flew out and fled in one direction. Hurry up, fly faster. Hualien roared in his heart and used all his strength to incite his wings to burst out at his fastest speed. At the same time, the wound on his chest that was constantly gushing blood was healing quickly. Hualien finally experienced the power of the Insu silver weapon firsthand. The Wang sword in his hand was cut off as soon as it collided with it, leaving a 20 centimeters deep wound on his chest. Huaye looked at Hualien running away with a cat-and-mouse smile, and said to Xingyo beside him. Let's go and kill him together, otherwise it won't be easy if it drags on for a long time. Although Huaye enjoyed the feeling of chasing, he also understood the significance of killing a rebel king to the current war situation, so he called Xingyo to pursue the escaped Hualien. Hualien didn't dare to stop at all, didn't even dare to say a harsh word, and flew forward like a frightened mouse. Huaye and Xingyo were chasing after them, and the distance between Huaye and the fleeing Hualien was slowly closing. It was only a matter of time before they caught up at this rate. The speed of both sides was extremely fast, covering a distance of hundreds of kilometers in just a few seconds. This was due to the air resistance in the atmosphere, otherwise it would have been faster. King, it takes too long to pursue like this. The rebel king will come to support at any time. I propose that I intercept him. King, you find an opportunity to cripple his wings. Xingyo, who was lagging behind Huaye, saw that he would not be able to play any role if this continued, so he suggested in the communication channel. Huaye, who was enjoying the thrill of pursuit, turned his head slightly and glanced at Xingyo, who was following not far behind. He felt that it should not dampen the enthusiasm of his subordinates too much, so he agreed to the proposal and at the same time fine-tuned the angle of the Wang sword in his hand to prepare for the attack. Prepare. Okay, you will intercept and I will attack. There was a hint of joy on Xingyo's face, and then his eyes stared at the fast Hualien in front of him, who was only the size of his hand. The gene engine in the dark plane quickly began to calculate its flight speed and predict its next flight trajectory. This level of calculation does not take even a second for Xingyo, who has a generation of god-level gene engines. It only took a moment to complete the prediction of Hualien's flight trajectory in the next few seconds, and then Xingyo, who was flying at high speed, suddenly stood up, holding the handle of the silver blade black-backed war gun in his hand and raising it above his head, because he was flying at high speed. In flight mode, inertia still pushed him forward. A halo of dark energy visible to the naked eye enveloped the battle gun raised in Xingyo's hand and burned like a flame, emitting terrifying energy fluctuations that scorched and distorted the surrounding space. No one had the name of a move that would make the gods cry. Xingyo bulged his arm muscles, shouted and threw the gun in his hand with all his strength. There was an explosion like the air bursting, and the thrown war gun flew into the distance like a laser, leaving only a series of rings of diffused air behind it. The war gun turned into a dark orange beam of light in the air, flashed past the flying Huaye's head, and then began to fall and bombard the pre-calculated angle. Hualien, who was frantically running for his life and counting the time in his mind, felt the terrifying energy fluctuations coming from the sky. When he looked up, he saw that the white clouds above his head had been evaporated and covered with a faint orange halo, and in the center of the halo, there is a battle gun that is shooting out and wrapped in dark orange energy. However, Hualien's brain, which was no better than a supercomputer, instantly allowed Hualien to calculate the trajectory of his whereabouts based on the flight speed and angle of the battle gun, which was not far ahead of him. And according to the calculation of the falling time, if he didn't slow down, he would probably hit the war gun head-on. It must be said that the position was very clever. As a last resort, Hualien could only start to slow down and avoid the whereabouts of the war gun. I saw a ray of orange light falling on the ground, and then I heard a terrifying loud roar, and a mushroom-shaped dazzling fire cloud rose above the ground. The compressed dark energy is converted into huge thermal energy and kinetic energy, causing huge damage to the planet's surface. Because Hualien was not far from the center of the explosion, he was affected by the spreading shock wave, causing his flight attitude to become unstable and his speed to plummet. Then a rapidly passing after image suddenly brushed past Hualien, who had slowed down. Countless white feathers were scattered in the air, turning into energy particles and dissipating. Hualien himself was like a kite with a short string, head down quickly, planted towards the ground. With a muffled bang, Hualien smashed a pit more than 1 meter deep into the ground and came out, his whole body looking ashen and miserable. The original pair of stuttering wings on Hualien's back now only had a single wing left. Hualien crawled out of the pit with a horrified look on his face. He had already anticipated his end after losing the ability to fly, but he was unwilling to accept it. There was obviously less than 6 seconds left, and as long as he delayed for 5 seconds, he would reach the agreed time. Reinforcements will arrive by then, and you can be saved. But just when Hualien climbed out of the pit and was about to leave the place, he heard a fierce explosion above his head. Then Hualien felt a stinging pain in his back, and a silver sword tip protruded from his chest. Then an irresistible force came from his back, pressing him into the ground again. The surrounding soil was shaken by this. The stock pressure thus rolls over. Hey, why don't you keep running? Didn't you run very vigorously just now? Huaye took his feet away from Hualien, who was nailed to the ground by Wang Jian, walked to Hualien, who was lying on the ground, and joked in a wicked way. Tisk tisk, look at what the noble heavenly meteor king who was once above 10,000 people and below 1 person has become like now. He is lying in front of me without daring to say a word. Huaye opened his hands and looked around, as if there were countless angelic spectators around him, very high-spirited. As soon as Hualien moved his body, he heard a pop, and another silver luxurious royal sword pierced his back. Suddenly Hualien groaned, and Huaye let go of the hilt of the sword, squatted next to Hualien and whispered. In terms of seniority, you should be considered my king's uncle, but why do you want to rebel against my rule? Is it because of that mere generation of divine body technology? Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 130. Hualien said nothing, trying to make him surrender. Unless the dead Huake came in person, otherwise he would not be able to pull off that face given Huaye's seniority. Faced with Huaye's question, Hualien just responded with silence. But it was obvious that Huaye didn't have a good impression of the rebellious expatriate king. He reached out and grabbed Hualien's hair and lifted up his head buried in the soil. Your vision is too short-sighted. After I have perfected the technology of the first-generation divine body, I may not allow you to come to Tiancheng to upgrade and improve the overall strength of the angel civilization. By then, our angel civilization will dominate the entire universe and establish a world of order centered on angels. Hualien opened his eyes and looked at Huaye, and uttered a few words one by one. Huaye, do you believe what you said? From the bottom of his heart, Hualien despised Huaye's actions after he came to power. Relying on the legacy left by his father Huake, he forcibly oppressed the resources and status of subordinate civilizations and female angels, causing the entire angel nebula to be in chaos. At the same time, Hualien knew very well that the scene just mentioned by Huaye could come true, but the greater possibility was that their foreign king would gradually be sidelined and then replaced by Huaye's confidants. The so-called generation of God-making technology was just to make up for it. It's just that little bit of confidence that the expatriate kings lack. Huaya loosened his grip on Hualian's hair in a bored manner. At this time, Xingyo had recovered the war gun he had thrown and flew over. Suddenly the clouds above Huaya rolled, and the next moment an orange-red beam of dozens of meters in diameter struck straight down. Boom! An area of hundreds of meters with Huaya as the center was instantly engulfed in a sea of fire, and the terrifying heat energy melted the earth directly into a steaming red fluid. After the energy fluctuations subsided, on the ground baked by the scorching heat, two figures crawled out from the charred and carbonized soil. They were not injured at all except for being a little embarrassed. "King, someone is ambushing us." Xingyo stood in front of Huaya in an instant, and a wave of air exploded. The battle gun in his hand deflected a silver sword that flew through the air. Huaya put his hand on Xingyo's shoulder, and took a step forward with a look of warmth and anger on his face. The good mood he had just stepped on Hualian's feet was completely ruined. When the attack came down, I cut off half of Hualian's body. He can't run far. Go and catch him. But, King, your safety. Huaya glanced at Xingyo and said in a cold voice. Why, are you going to disobey my order? I don't dare. Xingyo quickly turned around and jumped into the thick smoke billowing around him to find Hualian, who had lost the ability to fly. Huaya flapped his wings behind his back, and the black smoke rising around him was forcibly blown away, and he flew upwards. I want to see who ambushed me. However, after Huaya flew out of the black smoke of the explosion, the scene that caught his sight made his pupils shrink. 5 celestial warships that cover the sky are slowly breaking through the clouds and landing from outside the atmosphere. The huge friction generated turns into blazing red flames and wraps each celestial warship in it, like a piece of annihilation. Meteorite. The corners of Huaye's eyes twitched slightly as he understood that this was a trap for him, and the heavenly meteor king Hualian was just the bait to lure him here. Chen Xing, are you there? Huaya contacted Chen Xing through dark communication, but did not receive any response. In this moment, the 5 sky blades had broken through the atmosphere, and the huge wind pressure generated caused the ground to sink and shake, as if a violent earthquake had occurred. Same. King, what should I do? I can't contact the Legion soldiers under my command. With the war gun in Xingyo's hand, Hualian, half of whose shoulders had disappeared, flew over and uttered questioning words. Huaye's expression was frighteningly cold, because apart from 2 men, 3 women, and 5 angels, there were no other ordinary angels among the 5 heavenly blades surrounding him. As for the 5 angels approaching quickly, Huaya happened to be familiar with them all, especially the 3 female angels with outstanding temperament. Hey, it's been a long time no see, Kesha, Liangbing, isn't this Binghua? I, my king, have never forgotten how you took care of me on the day we first met. As he spoke, Huaya focused his eyes on Binghua and looked up and down Binghua's figure, causing Binghua to frown. Binghua didn't see any movement. A long sword suddenly shot out from the void and stabbed directly into Huaye's eyes. However, Huaya lifted the sword up and split it in half. I like this little personality, but I don't know if you will be like this in bed. As he said this, Huaye's face showed a smug and lewd smile, which made Binghua want to draw his sword and chop him directly in the face. But it was obvious that this was not Binghua's home court today, and Binghua knew that she was no match for Huaya, even if Huaye's fighting skills were poor in her opinion. Huaye's ability to bully the female angel is nothing. You can't escape today. This is the place where you will fall. Let Hualian go, and I can give you a decent death. An unusually heroic voice came, ringing in everyone's ears like a bell. Tianyi King Haglass flapped his wings and moved forward a distance, breaking away from the team. Herglass, don't talk nonsense with Huaya. Kill him first, and then you two can talk as you like. Huaxiang, the king of heavenly lies, came to Hugla's side with his hand on the hilt of the sword at his waist. His attitude was very unfriendly. Hegrath snorted, and the fluffy blonde hair on the back of his head, like lion's hair, floated slightly. Although I feel very unhappy with you, you are right. We can't let Huaye run away this time. Huaye was unhappy when he heard this. Do you think you can take over this king today? Binghua, Kesha, and Liangbing were watching the scene quietly. And why Binghua and other female angels who had evacuated the Hera star system appeared here was because of something Binghua said unintentionally. If Huaye wants to intercept and kill the Angel King, can he use the trick to design an anti-Huaye beheading plan? In order to make Huaye relax his vigilance, after Angel evacuated the Hera star system, Kesha contacted the coalition forces that were in an unfavorable situation and provided an idea to surround and kill Huaye. Finally, after the two sides made supplements and exchanged some interests, the female angel and the coalition forces reached a cooperation. The female angel group evenly distributed more than a dozen Skyblade warships around the 4 hot battlefields currently being fought, using Binghua's light and shadow technology and Hexy's dark information shielding technology to hide silently to avoid detection by the Hui group. In addition, Liangbing used her space technology to build fixed small teleportation gates in a certain area of the 4 battlefields, and stored the data of Hegrath and Huaxiang's first-generation gods in advance to achieve the purpose of rapid teleportation. Then, the dark information shielding field prepared by He-11 in advance was opened as soon as Huaye took the bait, cutting off Huaye's ability to call for reinforcements.